You know why you like this line, Jack? Because that's a Jack villain line. That's what somebody tells me right after I think I've won a fight, and you start laughing in the background.
Yeah, is that right? I'm that cruel?
I mean, I wouldn't call it cruel. We're playing games together. Your characters are cruel.
That is an incredibly high compliment, and I will
Hello, and welcome to Notes from the Oracle. I'm Connor, and together with Jack, my co-host from Cabin 6, we're going into uncharted waters as we explore the monstrous mythology of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Book 2, The Sea of Monsters. Chapter 20, The Fleece Works Its Magic Too Well. I don't know about you, I feel like Thalia would probably disagree with that sentiment.
I was gonna say, that's great. It did its job, and then some. I don't know about too well. Good title. I like it.
Mhm.
It's fun. It's like, what does it
Creative
mean? It's a head
intrigue.
scratcher. Yeah. I feel as though we should preface going into this chapter with a couple of things. You and I spoke, I would say, at length prior
Mhm.
to recording about our general thoughts and more exactly, my lack thereof. I really don't know how I feel about this chapter, and part of me thinks, and we'll talk about this more later, that this is a one and done magic kind of chapter where once you know what happens, you can never go back and recapture that moment.
I'm nodding my head, Jack. You were talking about it earlier, and I thought I would save it for the episode. The way you described it reminded me of the feeling I got watching Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Mm,
I love Spider-Man, and we've talked about some of the similarities between Spider-Man and Percy Jackson at times. That's not where I'm going with this, but that movie is one that when I watched it for the first time in theaters, it's such a thrilling fucking popcorn movie. It's so fun. You know they're pulling out all the cheesy stops and cameos, but it's so good when each one pops up. You don't know where it's gonna pop up, and it's amazing. And then you watch it a second time and you go, "This is a real ho-hum movie, actually."
yeah, you're exactly right. And for what it's worth, I did clock that with that movie in the theaters. I was like, man, this is really gonna suck on a rewatch when you're not in the theater and they just have like 30 seconds of silence where cheers are supposed to be and people are just kind of looking back and forth at each other.
Yeah. This book truly, with the finale of this chapter and the
Yeah,
finale for the book on the whole, has that problem.
it does.
'Cause you and I, weirdly, we've been talking about the inevitable end is that Thalia comes back at the end of this book the whole time.
Yeah.
And earnestly, it doesn't feel like it's mattered basically the entire book. There's no interesting hints that make you go, "Wait, that's what they meant." No, it's pretty obvious upon a reread that it's like, "Oh, that's what Luke meant." Yeah, that's fair enough. Sure. But it's not interesting, especially, I think, when you know what Thalia's fate is to become.
Mhm.
Of course, the series is called Percy Jackson and the Olympians, not
It's
called
true.
Percy Jackson and that time Thalia Gray showed up and stole my prophecy. We
Yeah.
know that Thalia is going to be shuffled out of the picture, but I think also, spoiler alert, and Jack, do you remember when Thalia is shuffled out of the picture and how? Before I spoil it?
Oh, vaguely. I know it's a future book thing, so it's
Okay,
nothing
it's
crazy. I I will say, just to cut you off
Mhm,
briefly, I'm gonna push back a little bit. I did have fun. Again, as somebody I said at multiple points throughout this book that there were like 3 things that I remembered or thought I remembered. This
mhm,
was one of them. That is
mhm.
Thalia comes back, it's the big mic drop, the cliffhanger, the setup for what at this point would feel like the rest of the series, but really for next book, and I think it's good. I
Mhm,
like it, and that's where I struggle, because if I
mhm.
was reading this for the first time, I'd be like, "Oh, fuck," and I probably was like that as a kid was like,
Yeah.
"Holy shit," and I had to wait for the next book to come out or wait for my parents to take me to the library or go to fucking Borders. Remember Borders bookstore, Connor?
Rip Borders.
I know. Or, but that's the point. It's like, I know it
Mhm.
absolutely would have gripped me then, but you're right. I feel like that is a very apt comparison where it's not a twist that adds to the reread. It's just a twist that you're almost waiting for it the entire time. And it is maybe unfortunately the most important part of the book.
Yeah. Might I make a comparison? Because I think you've hit the nail on the head with it might be the most important part of the book. At the end of the day, this is kind of what this whole book is about. Is
Mhm.
this big moment, and really this whole quest is just to achieve this. Which
Yeah.
means a lot of the rest of this adventure becomes kind of a moot point, weirdly. And I wanna compare that to chapter 19 of book 1, when you realize that Hades isn't the villain.
Mhm.
That's a good twist that upon reread is really fucking interesting, and you get to look at the
Yes.
Furies and the way the monsters interact and who they're fighting and when, and you slowly get to put the pieces together upon a reread of, "Oh, this was all here, but oh, it was boiling beneath the surface." And yeah, there's a few middle grade fiction of, "Why'd he say it like that, huh? Why didn't you
Mhm.
guys catch that?" And that's okay. But it is core to that book in a way that I don't think this is core to this book.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like it feels like the culmination of a side quest that ended up becoming a lot more important, and there were seeds that were set that, again, we talked about it. We talked about it throughout this book. I was like, "That's a I think is a reference to this, and that's a reference to that, and the prophecy, and Kronos is trying to get as many pieces on the board as possible," and so, it's not like it came out of nowhere, but and I fear as though we're already veering into entire book review
I
territory, so
know.
I will end it after this, and we warned ourselves this would happen, but I will end
Mhm.
it after this, and we will talk about the actual chapter. The actual stakes that were supposed to be resolved from getting the fleece back was saving Camp Half-Blood, and it just is like, shoulder shrug, "Okay, I guess we saved the camp." Because of issues that we will talk about. Well, 1, we have talked about at length. 2, we will talk about even more with greater detail next episode.
Yeah.
And so it's like, "All right, we saved the camp." That should be the, like, "Oh, good, we did it." B Breathe a sigh of relief, right? And then, adding another twist to it is the Thalia thing. They should be of equal importance in our mind, and I feel as though they're not. They truly one trumps the other, and it happens to be the thing that is thrown in at the very end that we couldn't have said for certain
Was
mattered
going to
throughout the rest of
happen.
the book.
Mhm.
Exactly.
That is a very apt way to put that, and I think this is therefore as good a place as any because Jack has mentioned it. This is me telling all of you, yes, you listening at home. Yeah, you're touching your headphones going, "Oh, he's talking to me." Yes, I'm talking to you. Next week, or 2 weeks from now, we are going to be doing our full book review. So all episode long, you're going to hear us going, "Ah, we got to save that for the book review. We're doing a chapter review." If you want our full, unfiltered thoughts on the entire book, tune in next time. Those are like, if book 1 is anything to go by, that is like my favorite episode that we do. It is so much fun. We talk a lot. It's a long one. There is a lot there for you, so don't miss it.
Yeah, but still keep listening to this one. Finish this one too, though, actually.
Well, yeah, the other one's not out yet because you listen every time we release an episode on Sunday afternoon.
Hopefully that still ages well, but also other people that have found this and, that episode's already released by the time you're listening to this, stay for this one too, it's really good, I swear, I promise.
It is.
And with
Trust
that,
me, I've edited
Connor
it.
and with that, Connor, we pick up in one of the happiest afternoons that Percy's ever had at camp.
Mhm.
Do we get to see any of that? Not
I'm so
really.
glad you asked. Yeah, no, not at all.
Really
Well,
nothing.
and the line that really stuck out to me, or the part about this line that really stuck out to me, is when he says, You never know when your world is about to be rocked to pieces. To pieces? Like, okay, that feels a little overdramatic. I get it. We've talked at length about the big twist finale at the end of this chapter. I feel like there are a lot more things that could rock your world to pieces than this thing, which is like objectively a person who in the past has been a friend and an ally to your friends reappearing. It's fine. We can move on. That just felt a little melodramatic from Percy.
A little bit. I don't know. I get the sentiment. He's like, today was so good. I thought we were done. Come to find out, oh nope, get another curveball. So like, I understand that.
Yep.
It's just the lead up to it is all very flat. And like, this is a perfect example. We start talking about Grover, and I, reading this, am very excited because Grover has been in this book, but we have gotten truly like no Percy Grover interactions, which we love last book. Those were some of our favorite parts.
Mhm. That's the
Them
only
just,
reason that the Pan chapter where he's first talking about being a searcher is, like,
yeah,
one of the ones that I remember vividly, is I remember the 2 of them looking up at the stars and having this beautiful heart-to-heart sitting among garbage.
yeah. They touch base with each other. They talk about the world, how it has changed, how it has changed them, and they do so in a very profound and brotherly way. And we've had Tyson this book to fill that brother aspect, but it's a very different dynamic. And that's why I think Tyson works very well, is because he's not Grover. They have some overlap, but
Mhm.
the Venn diagram between the 2 is still quite separate. There's just some overlap, and
Yeah.
that's what makes them distinct and interesting. Now we've got the actual intelligent and emotionally wise character back, and I'm thinking, "Oh, good. We're gonna end this book before the big twist with Percy and Grover and maybe Percy, Grover, and Annabeth basically decompressing and sharing time with one another after an entire book of fighting for just that."
I'm so glad you point that out, Jack. The thing I wanted so bad was some Percy and Grover decompress about the prophecy time.
Mm.
I wanted Grover and Percy to talk about that in particular and to get because Percy's wrestling with a lot here. This is the book where he's had it dumped on him that he will decide the fate of Olympus in a few short years.
Yes.
What better thing for us to finally have a moment to talk with Percy's best friend than that?
Yep.
And we just
Dude,
don't get it.
you're right. It would also set up the twist a lot better because it's
Really
so fresh.
good.
It's really fresh in
Mhm.
our minds. And it would also help recontextualize, and we're rewriting at this point, but it would recontextualize like Percy saying, "Oh shit. Like this is what you've been dealing with, Grover. This is the burden that you've had.
Mhm.
When you found me, you found a person before me. You've had to deal with this twice. I'm sorry, dude. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit. I just always thought you were kind of a nervous person. And for what it's worth, you are. But you also are a nervous person that's been handed two WMDs that could
Yeah.
truly alter the fate of the cosmos.
You more than
Like,
anyone
damn.
else understand the predicament I'm in because you have been personally liable
Yeah.
for those 2 WMDs. I am one, but you
Yes.
have been the guy who has been tasked with, "Yeah, get it from point A to point B and don't let it
Mhm.
shake too much or we're all gonna die."
Yes. And despite that, Grover, you still treated me as a friend above all else. Like, what a
And that's
fucking
so
testament to him.
interesting, and that's part of what makes book 1 so compelling with their relationship, and frankly, I think it's what makes Grover and Percy's relationship compelling going forward. And there is
Mhm.
good stuff here from this. There's a few small things that I really enjoy, but it just feels like that was a missed opportunity.
Yes. I agree. And this is jumping ahead of my initial point a little bit. Spoiler, we get none of that. we talk about Grover, and Grover and Percy chat, but it is truly nothing of consequence. We learned that Grover said that he's going to spend the rest of the summer at camp before resuming his quest to search for Pan. He said that the Council of Cloven Elders were very impressed. He hadn't gotten himself killed, and more importantly, he cleared the way for future searchers. They're not going to get trapped, ideally, in Polyphemus Island anymore. The Fleece isn't there to draw them off course. And so they said, "Hey, we'll give you a 2-month furlough, and here's a new set of reed pipes." So, haha, Council of Cloven Elders suck. Once again, we are getting a passing reference to they are truly the worst.
The fucking worst.
And then we get, it's kind of silly. He says, "Ooh, the bad news though. Grover really wanted to play those pipes like nonstop, and he's still not very good at music. So he's playing the YMCA, and the strawberry plants are going fucking insane and trying to kill everybody that's nearby, or maybe kill themselves, or both. Maybe it's a murder-suicide type of situation."
That's I don't know what to say about that. Damn. Play the flute so bad that the strawberries are doing murder suicide. That
Yeah,
is insane.
it's
But I think
tough.
the other important detail that we get here is Grover tells Percy that he could dissolve the empathy link between them.
Mhm.
And I do really like that Percy says, "No, actually, if it's okay with you, keep it. I want to know if you're in danger." And Grover's like, "But if I am in trouble, you could die." And Percy says, "If you get in trouble, I want to know so that I can save you. I wouldn't have it any other way." And that is like why I say there's things about this that even though it doesn't do what I really want, that I really like.
Mhm.
Honestly, all of the like Grover getting his flowers from the Council of Cloven Elders and playing his reed pipes is very mid. It's very bland. And then you get this little nugget that I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty good." And that's
Yeah.
kind of gonna be my theme for the chapter. Okay. I don't actively dislike this. It's okay. Oh, hey, that was nice. And then we move on. And that's most
Yes.
of what this is.
Yeah. So I read this like, oh, great. Surely the "hey, I wouldn't have it any other way" is going to lead into a much larger conversation. Nope, we're done with that now.
Yep.
We're finished. He keeps playing the YMCA. We all have a good laugh. And then it's we're moving on. It's during archery class now. Chiron pulls Percy aside, said, "Hey, I fixed all of your problems, or most of his problems with Merryweather Prep. So the school no longer blames him for destroying the gymnasium. The police aren't looking for him anymore." And we do get an introduction of a really cool and, from what I remember, very underutilized power, at least in the original series.
That was exactly my point, Jack, is that, wow, they introduced this far earlier than I expected because they never fucking use it again until Heroes of Olympus.
Yeah. Chiron's like, "Yeah, I did this by suggesting that the mortals saw something different on that day. There was a furnace explosion. It wasn't Percy's fault." And Percy said, "Okay, you just told them that and they bought it." And this is where Chiron says, "I manipulated the mist. Someday when you're ready, I'll show you how it's done." So
Cool.
we've got perception slash reality warping that is really cool. I really do love that the mist is expanded in that way. We've always
Mhm.
known that it's there. We know that it has this effect on mortals and some, monsters and even people within the world of gods, right? But I it always felt like it was kind of this force of nature that you just had to work around, not that could work for you, by you. And now we get precedent that that's not the case. If you become adept enough, you are able to subtly kind of Jedi mind trick the mist to shift perception, to get away with things, to make yourself more persuasive. And I, as a power expanding in this already really cool magic system, love that. I fucking love it. Wish we saw it more in the future. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I truly feel like it is one of the neatest and most clever uses of the mist that Rick comes up with, and it
Mhm.
just never really comes up.
I fully agree. it goes underutilized for so long after this. It's like, I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
trickle this little bit of cool world building in, and then we're gonna forget about it for 4 out of 5 books.
This is where I start getting a bit foggy with my memory. I seem to remember that Thalia uses it a couple of times. It might even be next book, honestly. But
You know,
still,
Thalia might use it, I can't remember,
on the
actually.
whole, this is one of those things that truly everybody should start getting good at. Or if you want it to be more of a special thing, give one person in the group the ability to do that. I would say
Mhm.
Annabeth. That feels right up her alley. But hey, maybe I'm a shill for Cabin 6. Who would say otherwise, right?
It would be a cool Annabeth thing. I would also find it interesting if the mist was somehow inherently opposed to logic and that made it tough for her. And since it has to do with
Mm.
playing with people's emotions, that it was maybe more of a Grover
Oh,
thing
Grover. That would be cool too.
and that like he learned from Chiron. I could see it going either way, but for sure it is something that I wish more of our main cast of characters got
Mm.
to do.
I like that we both implicitly agree it shouldn't be Percy.
Yes, 100%. I did find it very funny that Chiron's like, "One day I'll teach you," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're putting that off because it's not gonna fucking work." Percy's gonna go, can I hit it?"
It's
"No,
true.
Percy."
Well, and this is ironically one of those things that I think I like the power so much because it's one of those concepts that we actually really leaned into in D and Demigods, right?
Very much so. You guys were constantly like, "Oh, but we can't do that because 'cause we're gonna have to fuck with the mortals." But then if we fuck with the mortals, who's to say that we actually can successfully manipulate the mist this time? We've gotta try.
Yep.
And it created some interesting moments, and you
It
guys
did.
even were like, If it keeps working on the mortals, maybe it'll work on these ghosts? Maybe it'll
Yeah.
work on these random other monsters?" And that was really an interesting dynamic, and that's where I
Mhm.
think it's at its coolest, is when it's this tepid thing where it's like, it shouldn't work on monsters, but I can use it, and of course, we were drawing heavily on the Heroes of Olympus, which is the sequel series where it is a bigger thing, and that's why it was in that, but because that's how Hazel uses it sometimes. Hazel's a
Mm.
really interesting character. God, we're so far from her, though.
Yeah. But anyways, we get that. That's cool. There are implications for that. I guess that really won't be discussed much at all. And in
No.
this book, they super won't be. Percy says, "Oh, okay, that's neat. By the way, you're still expelled."
Yep.
Whoops. The headmaster, Mr. Bonsai, said that Percy has, quote, ungroovy karma that disrupted the school's educational aura. So his vibes are off. That is, he is saying his Percy's got some bad vibes, and so he can't come back, which I will say did make me laugh. That
That's
is
really
funny.
good. I got a very strong giggle out of. You've got
Yeah.
ungroovy karma. Damn, hit him where it hurts.
Yeah, yeah, you kinda just are really fucking with the whole atmosphere we've got going here. But hey, the legal trouble is gone. And that's really what Sally Jackson cares about. Wait a minute, Connor. That's a name we haven't heard in a bit. Oh, fuck, that's right.
Yep.
Sally is not only a thing, she didn't know that any of this happened.
It's a bit awkward. I too forgot that Sally wasn't in the loop by the end of the book.
Yep. And I read that where Chiron pulls out his little Nokia cell phone from his quiver. And that's how you know it's important. Because he said, "Here's a cell phone.
Yep.
Call your mom." He pulls out the camp cell phone. He gives it to Percy. And this was a moment genuinely. I was like, oh, fuck, that's right. She doesn't know. Which you would think that maybe would have been brought up more throughout the book. But you know what? Let's say they keep it the same. It is very funny if Percy was like, "Oh, shit, I knew I was forgetting something. My fucking mom. Uh-oh, I didn't
Yep.
tell her. I couldn't have told her. There was no way I could have. I mean, maybe I could have done an Iris message. There was so much happening." And
He could have definitely sent an Iris message, but this is a funny way to end it.
I am once again thinking about, "Oh, good. Well, now we will get a solid Percy and Sally sequence where Percy has to be apologetic, but they talk about this is the culmination to the division of godly life and mortal life, which we talked about from the
Mhm,
very beginning, was a
mhm.
fascinating dichotomy with Percy willingly and willfully shoving away his godly lineage in favor of protecting Sally by embracing a purely mortal existence, but that ironically puts her in more danger because he is out of practice. He is
Ill
not keeping his
prepared.
wits about him. He's ill prepared. So this is the culmination to that. Because we haven't really gotten that yet, especially when it comes to Sally, who is the linchpin. The linchpin when it comes to that. The reason Percy says there has to be a division because I want to keep my mom safe. So I turn the page thinking, oh, this will be really good. And Connor, feel free to describe what happens because it's none of that.
It's real fucking short. That's what it is. I'll keep it a buck with you. It's real fucking short. There's very much what I would consider to be tonally consistent Percy Jackson moments where he says, at the beginning, that was the worst part. She gives him a Percy Jackson, what were you thinking? Do you have any idea how worried I was sneaking off the camp without permission, going on dangerous quests, and scaring me half to death? Which is fun. I enjoy
Hmm.
that. And she finally pauses to catch her breath, and she says, "Oh, I'm just glad you're safe." And this is where you start to think, "Oh, maybe we're gonna, like, get into some of this." They have a little back and forth where she's no good at staying angry, and that's kinda the end of it. Percy says, "I'm sorry, I won't scare you again," and she says, "I'm not stupid. You will. I know what you're getting into." Great! This is another entry point. We've teed it off. I know. Chiron has informed me. Nope, not what we get. Percy wants to say something to make her feel better, and he's thinking about how he's balancing being a half-blood, and as how he gets older, the dangers will only become greater. Yet again, great entry point, and I enjoyed a little bit of this. And all of it is good. It's like very 5 out of 10, and then we get 1 6 or 7 out of 10 line. The 6 or 7 out of 10 line for me here is Percy offers to come home for a while, and she says, "No, no, stay at camp, train." And that's really cool because it shows that the whole time, Sally kind of has understood that there's
Hmm.
no balance between being a half-blood and being a regular human. And she wants Percy to train and become safe because there is some level of him that has to step into this destiny. And all of that goes unstated. It doesn't need to be said out loud. It's just implied. And that's really cool. But, like, I wanted a
Yeah.
little bit said out loud, man. Fuck.
I know, I know. I feel as though this is one of those things where I'm like, yeah, we're really reading between the lines here. This is the culmination. It is the mortal life finally allowing the godly duties to take priority. And this is where I wish there would be just a little addition.
Mhm.
Percy has been doing it to himself. Sally has not been doing it to Percy. And so I feel as though she should have said something along the lines of, you need to stay there and train. You're not protecting me by doing this. I want you to be around because I love you and you are my son. But I know that being there, at least for a good chunk of time, is what is best for you. And therefore, it's also what's best for me because I want what's best for you.
Yeah.
So stop trying to shield me from who you are because you are my son. And I don't just love half of you, I love all of you.
And I think that's really interesting. And I think there's a world where that is done really well. And I think there's a world where maybe that's a bit ho-hum and we go, it's a bit telly over showy. You could also give that conversation to be something that Percy recognizes internally and talks
Hmm.
about with Grover,
Right.
his
Yes.
emotionally
Yeah.
intelligent best friend. That's not to say that any of what you proposed is bad, by the way. My point is that there's multiple entry points. And actually, what I've realized about this, Jack, is we are 3 pages in, and there have been, in those 3 pages, just as many full line breaks between paragraphs, implying that we need to fully switch context. And we're heading into the next one. But
Yeah.
just seeing that what I think that tells me is that Rick is doing a lot of jumping, especially during this early part of the chapter, and I think
Mhm,
that's part of why a lot of this feels somewhat dissatisfying. We're not getting enough time to sit with any of these things. Because the 3 distinct paragraphs, I admit, are 3 they're not paragraphs, they're sections. The 3 distinct sections, I admit, are distinct. We have the Grover section, and that feels too short. We have the Chiron fixed all my school problems section, and honestly, that feels unnecessary
mhm,
given what else we're talking about, or like it should just not have a break and it should flow a little bit more into the Sally Jackson section, and then we have the Sally Jackson section. And the fact that all of those take up a page each, sometimes less, really, I think for me, hammers home why I look at this and I go, there's a good nugget in here, but you didn't elaborate on it at all? At
yeah.
all?
You just gave up too early is what it feels like. And now's not the time, and if you're worried about, "Oh, there's a page requirement," or, "Oh, I can't do all of this," then drop some of it. I don't know, I think it's important to talk to Sally, I think it's very important to talk to Grover.
The
I don't
murder-suicide
know.
strawberry plants maybe coulda gotten lost, and I
It could have been
love the
a
little
line.
whimsy details.
Yes!
You do spend a
Like
full paragraph on the YMCA, man.
yes, yes, and there's one more line that I do like for the
Mhm.
Sally section, and then we'll move on because 'cause we're doing another jump, we're going into the Tyson section, but before that, after she says, "No, no, stay at camp, train, do what you need to do," the next line is, "But you will come home for the next school year." Now, a little twisty twist. I said that wrong because I don't know if you noticed, there's a question mark at the end. Will is italicized, which means that it is, emphasized in the sentence, but it reads without that question mark as she is commanding Percy. Do what you need to do, but you will come back home. It's actually, but you will come home for the next school year, right? Maybe? Like, do what you need to do, but
Mhm.
will I see you again? And I do like that she is putting it up to Percy, saying, "This is your choice to make. I will respect what it is, but just know I love all of you. You need to also love all of you. You can't neglect one over the other." That should have been the big theme of this book, and it just was tepidly in the background.
Wow, I'm just realizing how well that works with all of the Percy's at his lowest moments chapters,
Mhm.
and yeah, that is a really understated thing. I think you really could have played up how much Percy laments that this is his lot in life as a half-blood, as a demigod, and how dangerous it is and how sad that makes him. And then you could have had this be a really solid conclusion to all of that, and that's missing. I wish I had more to add. That's really disappointing.
It
I like,
is.
I knew I was missing it in this chapter, don't get me wrong, but I didn't realize the fact that, like, you could have had this as an underpinned thing throughout the entire book, and it is, but it's not really there, and it could be really there, and that is
Mhm.
disappointing that it's not. But
Yeah.
that's where it's left, and then as you're right, we gotta do the Tyson section now.
This is gonna sound weird, Connor, before we get
Mhm.
into it, because I love Tyson. I love Tyson. I will unequivocally say it. He is fucking awesome throughout this entire book. We're at the end, so I can just say it. Like, I am making that as a statement of fact. I weirdly am like, what more do we have to do with Tyson? We did it. We had the arc. We had the arc for both
Mhm.
of them. We had our impactful moments, and we get another kind of interesting thing here, but I view this as space that could have been given to Sally or Grover or both. I would love more
I
Tyson, but we don't need Tyson right now.
I fully agree, and in fact, to continue my Spider-Man metaphor from earlier, I thought that the little Tyson section here felt a little one more day to me. Oh,
Mm.
oh, we gotta return to the status quo. We can't have this extra, what is this, an
Yeah.
extra friendly ally? What if
Now,
he wants to go
Connor,
on the next adventure? Get him the fuck out of here.
for those at home who are not comic fans, would you like to explain what you mean by that? The
I
one more
sure
day of it
would.
all.
So the one more day of it all is that in Spider-Man comics, there is a comic where Spider-Man, this is not long after he has gotten married to Mary Jane, editorial steps in and says, well, we can't have that. We've got the status quo to preserve. And so Peter Parker literally sells his marriage to the devil, and it is erased from his and everyone else's memory so that he can save his dying elderly aunt who's in her presumed 70s, 80s, 90s and has lived long and fulfilling life. So basically, it's when editorial steps in and says, no, 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 this is how things gotta be. And I don't think that this is like an editorial thing. I think this is Rick trying to reset the status quo, but to me, it felt forced because
Yes,
we get, and I apologize that I keep talking about page lengths here, but I think it's relevant.
it is.
We get a solid 2.5-ish pages of this, where realistically, the big thing that happens is Tyson says, I got a dream from Poseidon and I'm going to work in the forges. That's it. Now, tucked in there, because it's relevant to today's myth section, Percy does take some time after Tyson hops on Rainbow. We get the return of Rainbow, which I do like. That's cute. That's sweet. Percy takes some time to look at the shield that Tyson gave him, and he looks and he sees that hammered into the bronze are pictures in ancient Greek style, scenes from their adventures this summer. Annabeth slaying a Lystragonian dodgeball player, Percy fighting the bronze bulls on Half-Blood Hill, Tyson riding Rainbow toward the Princess Andromeda, the CSS Birmingham blasting cannons at Charybdis, and finally, the most important one, Tyson battling the Hydra as he holds aloft a box of Monster Donut. And then Grover and Annabeth show up and they're like, well, we already know that we don't need an emotional moment where you lament the loss of your brother. Want to go get dinner? Sure, I want to go get dinner. And then they go get dinner, the three of them, as they walk into the sunset into one more day. I mean, the next day at camp.
Yeah, and we are simplifying that section, but
I
I
am.
mean, really, that's it. I mean, that's the bulk of it. There's a couple more, parts of Percy playing with the idea of, wait, Tyson got called by Poseidon directly to go work in his forges, presumably see the underwater palace. And Percy's like, damn, I'm a little jealous. I'm a little envious of that. I wish I got an
Mhm.
invitation. But again, we've already talked about that. And one thing that did get a laugh out of me, let me put it this way. Tyson's like, it's an internship. And Percy goes, oh, well, like, when are you going? He's like, now. And Percy goes, now? Like, now? And Tyson just affirms, now.
Now.
Now, right now, I'm leaving. And it feels I don't know how I feel about it. I laugh, and I don't know if I laugh because I'm like, "That's genuinely funny," or if I laugh because I'm like, "Are you fucking serious? You're just doing a rug pull on Tyson, the fucking cane is coming on from off stage and just swiping him away, that's it?"
I don't know what to tell you because that's very much where I fall as well. It is towing the line where it is genuinely fucking funny. This guy who says so few words is just like, now, now, now,
Now.
now.
Yep, right now.
And that's
I gotta
funny.
go.
It's
Uh-huh.
the one word responses, but also it's so dissatisfying. And to me, what is really cool about this and what I like, because there's parts of this I really like, is he says it's hard for him to leave Percy, but he wants to make things, weapons for camp because they're going to need them. And Percy thinks to himself, yeah, we are. The Fleece has not solved all our problems. Luke is still out there and he's building an army.
Mhm.
Not to mention Kronos is reforming. We are in danger, and I respect that he wants to go build weapons. But hasn't Tyson's whole arc over the course of the book been becoming accepted at camp, and Annabeth is kind of symbolically representing Tyson's inclusion and not being treated as a monster by the other demigods, and his whole thing with the chariot race, because we did the chariot race, is that he gets to work in the forges of the Hephaestus cabin and build cool shit that even thwarts Beckendorf, the camp counselor from Hephaestus cabin. I feel like this undercuts that. I feel like you could have achieved the same status quo where Tyson just says, "Yeah, I kinda hate quests. They're really scary, and I'm a big baby." And we go, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's why you're an endearing and fun character."
Yeah, that's true. It would be really funny if Percy's like, "Wait, you're leaving? You don't wanna go on another quest?" And he just goes, "No. No, absolutely not." I don't mind him leaving to go to the forges, but I hate some of the jumping through hoops we have to do to make it feel fulfilling and satisfying,
Mhm.
because him being recalled to the forges does indicate that Poseidon, who directly requested it, is preparing. He's one of the only Olympians that we're aware of right now that is taking this threat seriously.
And that is cool. That is a good angle that I had not considered because I was like, "Well, why? Why not do this other thing?" But that is a really good angle, and it
But
is
again,
interesting.
I have to assume that that's the case. I don't know that this book has built up enough good faith for me to be like, "That's why." Because it does feel like they're just like, "Yeah, we need to get Tyson the fuck out of here."
Yeah.
I don't know. And there's a part of me that almost feels like this interaction is short. I almost kind of wish that it was a gut punch to Percy because Tyson just left. He's just gone. Maybe there's a note that's left. Maybe there's a little something extra that he crafted. I don't know. But Percy just has to be like, well, he's gone. And then Annabeth and Grover can come back, and all three of them could have a moment where they're like, he's not gone. He's not dead. Like, because Percy could be thinking, like, I already lost him once. In my mind, he was fucking dead for quite some time. And I
I
just got him back. And now he's gone again.
I love how every rewrite we've done this chapter ends with a conversation that's basically a heart to heart for Percy and Grover.
I know!
This
It's
one
because
includes Annabeth, but yeah.
it's what's needed. It is what is needed. And the more we talk about it, the more opinions I am formulating on this chapter. And unfortunately, because it is the last chapter, it is immutably tied with the rest of the book. It is this chapter's job to tie things up in a satisfying way. And it just doesn't. It really just doesn't. And
Yeah.
it's honestly, it's starting to piss me off now that I'm like laying it all out.
Well, we're gonna come out with slightly different opinions, but not vastly different opinions. I'm glad you've found your footing and you've started to understand where you fall on this one. But I will say this is where I think the chapter starts to become more cohesive. I think a lot of what it's been struggling with up to this point is we are halfway through the chapter and it feels like it hasn't picked one thing to do. And that's clearly evidenced by the fact that the title has nothing to do with what we've done for the first half. We are halfway through
Yes.
the chapter and it is not related at all. Now we get our final full line break and we are moving into the proper finale with the back half of the chapter. A storm rages that night, parting around Camp Half-Blood is normal. So that's notable, right? Because the clouds were rolling over camp in previous bad times. So it's a good sign that it's going around. And we get what I actually thought. Because again, there's these little nuggets of fucking
Yeah.
awesome shit. This is fucking awesome.
You talking about
Percy has
Kronos?
I am.
Yeah.
And Kronos has not been 100% cool this book, but this really
Mhm.
brought it back for me. Percy says his dreams were restless. He hears Kronos taunting him from the depths of Tartarus. He calls out, "Polyphemus sits blindly in his cave, young hero, believing he has won a great victory. Are you any less deluded?" And the laughter fills the darkness. And that's fucking sick.
Yeah. That's a really good line. Honestly, I would put that on the level with the fucking cold blood of a fucking murder victim and the rotten breath of its murderer or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you know why,
really
right?
solid.
You know why you like this line, Jack? Because that's a Jack villain line. That's what somebody tells me right after I think I've won a fight, and you start laughing in the background.
Yeah? Is that right? I'm that cruel?
I mean, I wouldn't call it cruel. We're playing games together. Your characters are cruel.
That is an incredibly high compliment, and I will absolutely take it. It's really fucking solid. It's really fucking solid. And it does, I will say, credit to this chapter, bring back the menace of Kronos that was sorely missing.
Yes.
And I don't need Kronos to always be there. I don't need him always chiding and whispering in ears. He doesn't need to be on page in every
Mhm.
chapter. I feel like, especially early on, the more I'm trying to think of the
He's
word
best used sparingly.
sparingly. Yes, the more sparingly that he's used is the better. It's just that when he has been used in this book, it's been kind of fucking lame.
Mhm.
So this is a good adieu to him in this book that sets up and reminds us, "Oh, yeah, this guy is actually a fucking huge threat."
Yeah. I almost wished that this was most of what we got of Kronos for the book, because this one line alone is the hardest thing that any villain says this entire book, especially in a book where Luke has decided to be comic book Bond villain instead of
Yep.
conniving, interesting villain.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
a campy Bond villain as opposed to an actually good Bond
yeah,
villain.
he's an octopusy Bond villain or
Oh,
fucking
no,
Moonraker.
he's Octopussy. Oh, no.
So that is what we get from Kronos. And as I said, the word here that comes to mind for me is sparingly. This is Kronos being used sparingly, and that makes it interesting. And that is when Poseidon now appears in Percy's dream. Percy is having this moment where he's grappling with Tyson being invited to this cool thing where he is not, but now to directly juxtapose Kronos appearing in his dreams, Poseidon appears to him face to face in the dream, sitting on his throne. I would say in all his glory, but he's in his fisherman chair throne in his khaki shorts and a t-shirt, which
Well,
is
hold on.
slightly
No, 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 no,
amusing.
no. He's in a coral throne. That's cool. But he is wearing khaki shorts
Ah,
and a sun-bleached
he's
t-shirt.
dressed like a simple fisherman. He is on the
Yes.
coral throne. He's not on the fisherman throne this time. Correct. And he tells Percy what he said in the letter. Brace yourself. And I did like that. I like that
Mhm.
juxtaposition of these two divine forces. And I think it reinforces your point earlier that Poseidon is one of the only Olympians that is actively preparing for this. And we see that through him bringing Tyson down to work in the forges. And so
Mhm.
it's an interesting juxtaposition to see Kronos and Poseidon specifically pitted against one another in this way. It's not who
Yeah.
you would expect, but it is intriguing.
Mhm.
And then Percy wakes up.
This next section, this is where for the first time, it's probably really fucking good.
Mhm.
If it's your first time reading this, you're like, "Oh, fuck." But this is that pause for the applause moment if we're comparing it to, honestly, most Marvel movies where there's a cameo.
Yeah,
It's like, we know it. Okay, we know it. Make it more impactful. The lead up now just feels a bit superfluous almost. It
I
doesn't
think
hold as much weight.
I know that the amount I highlight on any given page is not a measure necessarily of how much is important on any given page. But there is a significant period here between Percy waking up and stuff actually starting to happen that matters, where I don't have a lot highlighted. It's this entire page is blank except for the final line where Chiron says, "Curse the Titan Lord. He's tricked us again, given himself another chance to control the prophecy." Which is interesting. It's cool. It's a
Yeah.
bit dramatic.
We
But
get
for
the
most
setup.
of the
Yeah.
the setup here of like Chiron arriving and Grover banging on the door, it's just she's lying there. Something's happened. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, will someone use a proper noun? One of
Yes.
you, please.
Somebody well, so Grover does use a proper noun. This is the bait and switch. Percy awakes with a jolt. Grover is there. He's banging on the door. He flies inside without waiting for permission to enter. He goes, Percy! Annabeth! On the hill! She. And now Percy is immediately and reasonably so, like, I think he
Drawn
says
to
his
action.
blood runs cold. He's like, what the fuck happened to Annabeth? She was guarding the fleece on the hill. Somebody already fucking broke in and tried he's like, it doesn't make sense, but something bad has happened. So he rushes out, and this is where again Chiron gallops up and Grover goes, "Is it true?" And that's when Chiron is like, "Oh my god, this is fucking crazy," because Percy thinks that the fleece should be gone, but the fleece is still there. It hasn't been touched. He says, "Oh, curse the Titan Lord. He gave himself another chance to control the prophecy." And now Percy is like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" He says, "The fleece. The fleece did its work too well." Yeah, the title card.
Wow!
Whoa, whoa, mini title card because of the chapter. And they keep galloping and everyone's moving out of the way. There's a little crowd that's starting to form. And at the base of the tree, there's a girl lying unconscious. And then another girl in Greek armor kneeling next to her. And blood is roaring in Percy's ears. He can't even think straight. Annabeth had been attacked, but why is the fleece still there? And the tree looks totally fine. It's healthy and still suffused with the essence of the golden fleece. Chiron goes, "It healed the tree. And poison was not the only thing it purged." And then Percy realizes, wait a minute, that's not Annabeth lying on the ground. She's in the armor. And if Annabeth is there and you're on the ground and the fleece is in the tree and Chiron is a horse, then that means and Percy goes up, and this is where we see for the I think technically second time in this book,
Mm-hmm.
Thalia. We don't get the name drop yet. It's still building up, but come on, guys. We've already said it like 50 times. It's Thalia.
It's Thalia.
But this is where we get a proper description of her. Like, this is what her outfit is going to look like. This is what we're going to
Mm-hmm.
see going forward. It's this girl with short black hair, freckles across her nose. She's built like a long distance runner, lithe and strong. She wore clothes that were somewhere between punk and goth. A black t-shirt, black tattered jeans, a leather jacket with a bunch of buttons from bands that he'd never heard of. She wasn't a camper, at least not that Percy could recognize. But he had the strangest feeling he'd seen her before. Dot, dot, dot.
Hmm.
Like that one dream.
Yep.
Yeah, for those of you that don't remember, Percy had a dream where there was this girl and they were, oh, what's going on? It's crazy. And I predicted, because I couldn't quite remember, it was Thalia.
Yep.
I once again outsmarted the book that I've already read and was made for 12-year-olds. Let's go, Jack.
Yep. She says, "So are we doing this, seaweed brain?" Gesturing
Yeah,
toward Kronos in the dream, as if
that's
saying,
right.
"Are we going to kill him together?" Which is good setup for knowing what Kronos's plan is with all of this. And I
Yeah.
think Kronos's line earlier does make all of this all the cooler.
Yes, absolutely. Grover goes, "Oh, it's true. I can't believe." And nobody else is coming close. Percy, though, is putting her hand on her forehead. Her skin is cold, but his fingertips are tingling as if they were burning, that's neat. She's a little electric.
Uh-huh. I am going to pause you for 2 seconds
Yes.
just to let you know that basically everything from this point forth, I actually fucking love for one reason: the way it characterizes Percy.
Yeah.
Everyone else is stunned, speechless, stammering, and taking no action. And I love that Percy is so true to his character in this moment of being the decisive, actionable person who does things. The first thing he said after feeling her forehead is, "She needs nectar and ambrosia." He is actively like, this person is hurt. She's clearly a demigod, and we need to heal her. And that is so fucking cool, and I think it's
Yeah.
really well done.
I agree. And, this is another one of those instances, and we haven't really had a lot of them this book, where Percy is really out of the loop, with the exception of the prophecy. The first book was Percy being out of the loop all the time because it's all
Mhm.
so new to him. This time, he at least has more of a concept of what's going on at any given point. It's probably monsters, it's probably gods. Be prepared. But this is the first time where he's like, the context of who this is totally eludes him, and rightfully so. So he is not sure why everybody is acting so scared. And I like that that's the word he uses, scared, not apprehensive. They are terrified of what they're seeing right now.
Yeah.
And he takes her by the shoulders, lifts her into a sitting position, starts, resting her head on his shoulder. And he's looking around. He's like, come on, what's wrong with you people? We got to get her to the big house. But nobody moves, not even Chiron. They're still too stunned. The girl takes a shaky breath. She coughs, opens her eyes, and her irises are startlingly blue, electric blue. She stares at Percy, bewildered, shivering, wild eyed. She goes, who? And Percy says, I'm Percy Jackson. You're safe now. She's still disoriented. She goes, strangest dream. Says, it's okay. Responds, dying. Goes, no, no. He assures her, you're okay. What's your name? But that's when it strikes him. Even before she says it, the girl's blue eyes stare into his sea green eyes, and he understands. The Golden Fleece quest was for the camp, about the camp, but really what it was about for Kronos. Poisoning of the tree, everything that had been done was to bring another chess piece into play, another chance to control the prophecy. Chiron Annabeth Grover, who should have been celebrating this, are too shocked, thinking about the implications of what this could mean. And Percy realizes that he is holding someone who is destined to be his best friend or his worst enemy. And the book ends with, I am Thalia, daughter of Zeus.
Which is really, honestly fucking cool. It's a
It
good
is.
ending. And for me, I reiterate, what I love most about this is Percy running over. He's the only one who's taking action. He says, "Hey, I'm Percy. I'm willing to tell you who I am. You're safe now." And when he puts it together, he's still willing to think this person could be my best friend or my worst enemy. Whereas everyone else is just, "Oh, fuck." Percy
Mhm.
has this little hint of bright side. He recognizes they've been played by Kronos, but he's not willing to let it be all consuming.
Mhm. It's a good mic drop if they trimmed the fat, if I think again on rereads, it's not Annabeth. You don't need there to be the bait and switch of Annabeth is
Mhm.
hurt. I feel like it would just be better and maybe even make it more of a shock when you do see what's happened if Grover's just like, Percy, get the fuck out here. Something with the tree. And Percy could be thinking, the fleece. Something happened with the fleece. Who was on guard duty? Like, was
Mhm.
it Annabeth? I don't know. I don't know if she was on guard duty or not. Was it Clarice? I don't understand. And then they just see that there is a girl laying on the ground. And it basically picks up exactly from the point you said the rest of this is fucking awesome. Just keep the rest of it. But it doesn't need a paragraph of buildup beforehand. It bogs it down. And I'm thinking on rereads, it does nothing. It does nothing but detract from the actual moment in my mind. But that nugget, that last page or so, is a fucking phenomenal cliffhanger.
It's really, really good. And I think it's so interesting because this chapter is split cleanly down the middle by a break. There is effectively two chapters happening here. There's the tying up loose ends at camp half of the chapter, and then there is the Thalia half of the chapter. And I don't think you need most of the tying up loose ends half of the chapter, or I think you could have done it better, or you could have made it longer and had it be two chapters and have this last chapter be 5 pages. You're clearly not opposed to that. The first chapter's like 5 pages. It'd
Yeah.
be a nice little bookend. Have chapter 21 be the Fleece works its magic too well, and have the one before that be Tyson gets a summer internship.
Yeah, or something, right? Yeah, I
Something.
agree. And it actually would have been a really good parallel, literally bookending the book with the start where it's stormy and scary and shit's happening and it's like a short chapter with Grover, and then ending where it's stormy and scary and shit's happening with Grover once again,
But now
but it
we're
ends
there
with
and we're living it.
Thalia. Right,
Mhm.
exactly. I woke up and I thought I was in another dream or something like that. But no, it's he's here. Oh fuck, he's shaking me awake.
Yeah. There is a lot about this chapter that frankly works well and I like. And the thing I told Jack about this chapter is that it is a mostly 5 out of 10 chapter with some 6 or 7 out of 10 moments that maybe make it a 6 out of 10 chapter. And that kind of sets my tone for the whole book. It has these really big swings where sometimes it's got great moments, but the great moments just don't feel like they're pulling it up quite enough. And this chapter, I think, is much the same way. It's really good. Man, those last 2 pages are really good. And then there's some other stuff too. It's fine. It's fine. I think that's my consensus. Is the rest of it is fine.
I think Connor, as I'm sure you and hopefully the audience has picked up on,
Mm-hmm.
there are two things that I hate more than anything else when it comes to a story of any kind. One is it being boring. I don't necessarily think this was a boring chapter. But two is a waste of very obvious potential. And I think I was a bit discombobulated going into this chapter because I've had very strong opinions one way or another after reading a chapter. And this one I had to kind of marinate in. Because again, I was like, maybe if I was reading this the first time, it'd be different. So should I judge it on that merit? Should I not? But truly, even if it was the first time I was reading it, there is half of this chapter that is nothing but wasted potential. And that makes me so sad and disappointed. And I think, just as you said, actually encapsulates a lot of how I feel about the book as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, as we've been saying, more on that next time.
Yes.
But I think that is consider that my little preview of
Mhm.
my thoughts. Because I do think that a chapter that is your final chapter of the book is linked to how you feel resolving the book, especially when we've spent this much time on it. Had we been able to record every single week, we would have recorded this entire book over the course of half a year and released it over nearly a full year. And we're still releasing it over nearly a full year, but we've been recording it over at least 8 or 9 months.
Mhm.
This feels pretty momentous, and that last moment feels like it could have earned it, but there's just a lot of other stuff in this chapter that doesn't feel like it reaches those heights and doesn't feel like it got those earned moments.
There are two aspects to a last chapter. One of them is it should wrap up the book in a relatively satisfying way. Obviously, that's I think also the penultimate chapter should do a good chunk of that as well. But it should also, if it's in a series, set up the next book well. And this does set up the next book exceedingly well. I will give it top marks for that. It doesn't wrap up things within this book that I was very enthusiastic about well at all. Like it technically does. It technically does, but not in a way that feels good. I don't know that I feel satisfied with those final interactions. I closed the book saying, all right, well, out with a whimper, I guess. But man, the next book, can't wait to read that.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all of that. I think that sums it up very well, where it really does leave you. I think part of it is it does leave you wanting more. It does make me want to go immediately grab Titan's Curse, pick it up, and read it.
Hmm.
but not in the same way that book 1 ends and I go, "Damn, can't wait to see where this goes next," but more in a, "Oh, okay, we did the interesting thing. Great. Oh, let's go pick up the next one, and maybe we actually get some interesting things out of that
I
one."
know. Yeah, it leaves me wanting more in both directions, and one way
Mhm.
is not good.
And
I
one way is
shouldn't be
not good.
wanting more out of the book that's finished now. The
Yeah,
wanting more should be, "Man, this was great. I can't wait for the sequel." It's one half of the equation, which ironically, again, is one of the things that this book should have been talking about, which was you can't do one or the other. It's gotta be both. We gotta move on, Connor. You
that's
gotta
very
tell
funny.
us where we're sitting for these myths.
All right, well, hey, I've got good news for you. We're keeping up a tradition at the end of this book, Jack. We're
Oh,
sitting on Half-Blood Hill. That's 2 finale chapters where we have sat to enjoy our final myth section in the same place. In evening, no less, at night.
yeah. This time
So,
is even scarier. It's fucking storming. People are
yeah,
frightened.
no fireworks this time,
Mhm.
but we have 2 myths today. We have the Shield of Heracles and Thalias of Greek Mythology. I selected the Shield of Heracles because I wanted to look into shields with stories. That was sort of my prompt that I gave myself looking for what I wanted to talk about today. Because I wasn't sure if this was a thing that happened commonly other places, but I know for certain that there is at least one shield that tells a lot of stories, and that is the Shield of Heracles. So let's start by talking just a little bit generally about the type of ancient Greek shield that Percy wields. And when I say briefly, I do mean incredibly briefly, because there's not a ton I want to say and talk about in this one. What I want to tell you is that this type of shield is called an aspis or an aspides. It is sometimes also known as a porpax shield. And it is, when you imagine the circular shield that ancient Greek warriors used, that's this. They were often decorated, but not always. It largely depended on how much money you had and your status. But notably, they were not often decorated with stories on them, which is what I was looking for. What they were decorated with was something that we've actually talked about before. Jack, if I tell you the term Gorgonea, do you remember talking about that?
Yes.
Perfect. That is, for any of you who may have forgotten or missed that episode, that is the concept that we put scary shit on our shields to strike fear into the hearts of our opponent. So you might think of the Aegis, which is Athena's shield, which has Medusa's head, the head of a Gorgon, from which Gorgonea gets its name, smack dab in the middle to scare the shit out of people you come up against in battle. And so most shields of the time, if they were decorated, would have Gorgonea on them, or, also common, would be depictions of valor or things that evoked that. So when I say depictions of valor, I don't mean a guy doing a heroic deed. I mean the head of a lion or an eagle or some other animal that said, "I'm badass," to the guys
Mhm.
who were on the other side of the field. It was literally the sports mascots of ancient Greece. I hate to call it that, but there's a reason that like all the sports teams are named after big cats with big teeth.
Hey, your Detroit is showing.
I know. But that is what was on these shields. Now, the Shield of Heracles is in some ways the same. It does have some Gorgonea on it. We'll get to that. But in many ways, it is different. And it is different in a way that makes it similar to Percy's shield. So, written around the mid to early 6th century BC, there is a poem called The Shield of Heracles written by Hesiod. Hesiod, you may recognize as well from such important works as the Theogony, which we will be talking about later when we talk about Thalias. And The Shield of Heracles is a long poem, longer than you would expect, because it has its own narrative. And then within its narrative, there's a million other narratives. The narrative that the entire poem is framed around is an expedition that Heracles and Iolaus are going on. Iolaus is Heracles' squire, by the way. And within the poem, and unsurprisingly, the vast bulk of the poem, we get a description of Heracles' shield from the perspective of Iolaus. The description begins, "In his hands he took his shield, all glittering. No one ever broke it with a blow or crushed it, and a wonder it was to see, for its whole orb was a shimmer with enamel and white ivory and electrum, and it glowed with shining gold. And there were zones of cyanus drawn upon it. In the center was fear, worked in adamant, unspeakable, staring backwards with eyes that glowed with fire. His mouth was full of teeth in a white row, fearful and daunting, and upon his grim brow hovered frightful strife, who arrays the throng of men. Pitiless she, for she took away the mind and senses of poor wretches who made war against the son of Zeus." And so this is the Gorgonea that I was referencing earlier. The shield does bear an image that is meant to strike fear in those who come against Heracles. And this is a well-known detail of the shield, that his depicted fear front and center, as opposed to gorgons or other monstrous things. And from there, I shit you not, there is like 10 to 12, here, I'll count them for you, because I pasted them in here before I decided there was no chance in hell I was reading them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There are 14 paragraphs of different unique stories that are supposedly depicted on the shield. They depict a variety of different events, ranging from the deeds of Perseus and Danae, Ares in some of his deeds. There is Zeus and Leto fucking and making Apollo and Artemis.
Okay. All right. You couldn't even say making love. They were just
That's what
straight
I
up
was thinking
fucking.
of. Thank you. There are depictions of
Well, you
mortal
were thinking
cities.
of copulating. You were thinking of
I
copulating.
was thinking of
Yes.
copulating. Thank you.
They were doing it nasty style.
Exactly. There are depictions of mortal cities and festivals and grand towers and horseback armies. There is a lot crammed into this shield. Now, notably, unlike Percy's, the shield does not feature stories of Heracles. Heracles has not yet completed all of the stuff that we tell stories about him for. So instead, it features important stories of other heroes, mortals, and gods. The poem itself really feels like a unique way to tell stories that Hesiod thought were related to Heracles' journey, but related in that they had similar themes or depicted his strength or his balance between being a mortal and a god and those sorts of aspects. And we can tell that this is different because Hesiod's poem is believed to be inspired by a short section of the Iliad, where Achilles' shield is described. However, Achilles' shield is just described in the, "It's pretty, and it's made of metal, and it has some Gorgonea on it." The end. It's not nearly so in-depth, and it doesn't feature so many stories. So, I think, before I get to my very end here, that despite these differences between it and Percy's shield, it is yet again a way for Rick to point at Percy and go, see, he Heracles. Get it?
Uh-huh.
Get
Yeah.
it? He have shield. It has stories. But it is interesting.
He did it. He did it again.
He did it again. And so I will leave you with the description at the end of all of those stories. And the poem isn't over. There's like actually a lot more of it left. But the way it ends the description of the shield is this: "A wonderful thing the great strong shield was to see, even for Zeus, the loud thunderer, by whose will Hephaestus made it and fitted it with his hands. It tells us that even Zeus looks at it and is in awe of the craftsmanship. Zeus, who asked for Hephaestus to make this for his son. So that is the Shield of Heracles. I sometimes tell you, hey, I recommend reading this. We've talked a lot about the Odyssey and how the Odyssey holds up really well. This shit's real boring and dense, guys. Don't read this. It's not great. There are better ways to access these myths. But now
Yeah,
you
that's why you're
know.
here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now you know. The Shield of Heracles is basically the only shield we have from Greek myth which features stories and is very likely the inspiration for the shield that Tyson gives Percy in the previous chapter and that he finally takes a good look at in this chapter.
Neat.
Yeah. So now, let's talk about Thalias. Not one, not two, but 4 Thalias.
Oh, shit.
God, so many Thalias. Too many Thalias.
It's a for many Thalias, Connor.
You get it. You get
I
it,
do.
Jack.
I do. Now, I will say, I'm going to do a little flexy flex here, Connor, because sometimes I know things. I know one of these. We talked about it before recording. I know one of these Thalias.
You do.
I do.
We will get there, but we're not there yet because I'm going to start with the least interesting Thalias.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I am not leading with the good stuff. I've already got you hooked. You've listened this long, so I'm giving you dessert today. I'm saving the best stuff for last. So,
Okay.
my idea for this myth section was yet again pretty fucking broad. Let me go see if there's any people named Thalia that are interesting and perhaps relevant. Fuck, there's 4. Okay, I hope this doesn't take too long. It did not. So, the first Thalia that I think is perhaps the least interesting is referenced in Book 18 of the Iliad. She is one of the children of Nereus, who is basically the old man of the sea in Greek mythology, and the Oceanid Doris. And she is one of 33 Nereid siblings who gather on the
Okay.
coast of Troy to mourn with Thetis, mother of Achilles, as Achilles mourns the loss of Patroclus, his best and only boyfriend. And that's it. There's literally just a list of 33 Nereids that they're like, and they all cried together. That's where she exists. That's what this
Mhm.
Thalia does. Moving on.
I thought you said that was the least interesting, Connor.
You don't think that's the least interesting?
I mean, if you really dig deep, I don't want to have to explain it to you. I think it's more interesting if you find out the significance yourself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So get on that, Oracle boy.
Oh, okay, okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, her and her 32 siblings that all got fucking listed. I almost read that to you guys. That's not worth my time. I gotta list 9 muses. Spoiler alert. So, the next Thalia we get is another nature spirit. This one, she is a nymph. She is the daughter of Hephaestus, and she actually has sex with Zeus. Probably not the
Oh.
Thalia that our Thalia is named after. And then, because jealous Hera is jealous Hera, she buries herself in the ground to hide from Hera and gives birth to 2 twins known as the Pelici. Or Peliki, hard to say. And that's all she's known for. She's known for burying herself and then giving birth to twins underground.
Okay.
There you go. Those are the unimportant Thalias, in my opinion, and you can quote me on that.
I think there's more there.
Yeah?
I think there's
Well,
more there than you're letting on. Yep.
you know what? I look forward to ramblings from Cabin 6 on Thalia the Nereid and Thalia the Nymph.
Yeah, I think you just don't want to talk about Nereids. That's what I think.
Hey, hey.
Oh,
You shut the fuck up. You don't
I
touch
know.
that.
Oh my god. You just caught me like I was a bear digging through the trash on a fucking trail cam. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, yeah, I got it. I'll stop. I won't mention them anymore.
All right, so now the important Thalias. And Jack, I'll let you flex. Here's where we're going to talk about the Thalia that you remembered. So would you like to tell us which one you immediately were like, Connor, I know one of them. I've got this on lock. Who is she?
Yeah, she's one of the muses. And I
That
was
is
also
correct.
approximately correct with my kind of joke of a guess as to
You
what she was the
were.
muse of.
So I asked Jack to guess and see if he knew because each muse actually has a specific segment of the arts or a domain of the arts that they oversaw. So I asked Jack what he thought it was, and he suggested, I don't know, man, is she the fucking muse of improv? Close.
Actually
Very
kind of close.
close.
Yeah, within the
She
realm.
she is the muse of comedies. And as such, she can actually be distinguished quite easily as the muse holding a comic mask. This is like how you can see her in art and go, oh, that one's Thalia. And so we know a little bit about the muses. Actually, we know a lot about the muses because they are given their praise at the beginning of just about every artistic literary work. But we know a little bit about their lineage from Hesiod's Theogony, where it tells us the muses sang who dwell on Olympus, 9 daughters begotten by great Zeus. And then it goes to tell us their names Cleo and Euterpe, Thalia, Melopmene, Terpsichore, Erato, Polyhymnia, Urania, and Calliope, who is chiefest of them all. And so the reason I think this one is starting to get to be a more important trace for our Thalia is in no small part because this one is a daughter of Zeus. It's a good start. And I do think that her existence as the muse for comedies is important. And I'm going to come back to that. I don't think it's like the most important, but I think there's something literarily that we can get from that. But now we are getting to what I deem the most important inspiration for Thalia Grace. Because Thalia is also the name of one of the charities. The charities are a group of 3 daughters of Zeus, and so yet again here, daughters of Zeus, named Aglaea, Euphrosyne or Euphrosyne, and Thalia. And in many translations, the charities are instead known as the Graces. So this last Thalia is Thalia the Grace.
Okay.
So again, from Hesiod's Theogony, because it's our ancient Greek ancestry.com, we can read, and Eurynome, the daughter of Ocean, beautiful in form, bare Zeus 3 fair-cheeked charities. It lists the names, ending with lovely Thalia, from whose eyes as they glanced flowed love that unnerves the limbs, and beautiful is their glance beneath their brows. And the charities are most known for being attendants of other gods and goddesses, most frequently Aphrodite. So that's all for Thalias, because there's really not much more on the charities. They just kind of exist to be pretty. They are called the charities or the graces because that is meant to describe their beauty, their unending beauty. Why do I think that this is relevant? Well, the first thing is that Thalia the Grace is one who we get a very clear origin of what her name means. Now, they all share a name. Their names all mean basically the same thing. But it is perhaps more related to certain ones as they have domains. Thalia the Grace is not a nature spirit. She is a minor goddess. And as such, her worship was associated with abundance, banquets, feasts, and joyousness. Perhaps a subtle reference to how she represents an abundance for Kronos. And perhaps the idea of joyousness and beauty being a deliberate juxtaposition to her name with her punk rock attitude that she actually has, kind of going to show us that whatever we expect from her, Thalia wants to oppose it. She is not that. And finally, the reason I think that it is hammering home that we should be looking at Thalia the Grace, she is an attendant of gods and mainly goddesses. Now, the most frequent I mentioned is Aphrodite, but we do know that Thalia will go on to be an eternal attendant to Artemis in the series. So
Mhm.
perhaps this is a little bit of subtle foreshadowing as well. Now, I mentioned that I would come back to the comedies thing, and I do think that that is also relevant because in many ways, comedies in ancient Greece were also kind of fucking tragic.
Mhm.
And what is Thalia's life if not a tragedy up to this point, and will kind of continue to be one? And yet one that has a happy ending, which makes it somewhat of a comedy more than a tragedy. It tells us kind of from the get go that she's going to have a weird path to get there, but she is going to get a happy ending.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And that's my little bit on Thalia's.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll be honest. There was more there than I thought there was gonna be.
I'm glad I live to serve. Do you believe me now that there were more interesting Thalias?
I'd never said that. I just said I was shocked that there was more kind of at a base level than I anticipated.
Of course, of course. So we are going to get that Thalia the Nereid ramblings. Great, great. I'll pen it down for next book.
We'll put it down when you talk about Nereids. I think that would fit quite well together, actually.
Anyhow, so I think that's all we've got for today's myth section.
Man, Connor, all right. I feel like I was getting a little spicy on the chapter, but I will say, I'll give it this. The book is closed.
I
We did
know,
do it.
right?
We finished another book.
It's interesting because I came in here today, and the first thing I told you before we even started recording was how it felt to have the book closed, fully completed.
Mhm.
It's an achievement, but I will admit, now that we've kind of nailed down the format for the show, and I know the book review episode's coming, I'm chomping at the bit for that. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna feel like it's really closed until I get to have that moment, which is, to me, the real victory lap, I
Mhm.
think.
I
And I
agree.
am desperately excited for it, but it feels good, man.
Yeah.
It's certainly not the high highs of book 1, but I'm really proud of the work that we've done and how far we've come and the fact that we did it. And thank you to all of you for listening along with us as we close our second book of Notes from the Oracle. There is but 2 episodes left pertaining to book 2, because don't forget, we're going to have a quiz episode. Because what's the point in reading a book if you're not retaining any of the information? And by retaining any of the information, I mean embarrassing yourself on the internet about how little information you retained.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But hey, before we do that, let's relish in this, sit with it, experience the high of having finished this children's book. And Connor, I think you can ring us out now.
I think I shall. So I'll just remind you one last time. Make sure you join us next time for our final episode discussing book 2, where we give our full thoughts in our full review. It's going to be wild. We are going to have our top chapters, our least favorite chapters, our top myths, and maybe even a special extra section. Find out next time what that is. We'll see you there.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to support our content, please be sure to leave a review, share with your friends, and follow us on all your favorite podcast platforms. Until next time, this has been Notes from the Oracle. Whew!
Wow. Yep. My bookmark is so naked right now. It doesn't know where to, it's like, where am I?
I know. I do know where to put mine. I already slipped it in book 3 because
Yeah.
I recognize that I now need to do my pre-read for book 3 so I can pick all our myths.
That's true. That's a very good point.
I know what I'm gonna do it though. I'm gonna be in Hawaii in 2 weekends. I'm gonna be sitting on a beach reading Percy Jackson. It's gonna be a fucking great time.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I'm
Ugh,
honestly more surprised you're not gonna do it on the long ass plane ride. It
that's where
feels
I
like
actually am gonna
okay.
do it, but I like to tell myself that I'm gonna do it when I'm on the beach. I am actually terrible at reading on vacation because there's too many interesting things to do, but I'm
Yep.
great at reading on planes because there's nothing interesting to do.
Exactly. I was actually gonna propose, "Hey, maybe don't do it on the beach." I just imagine you basically doing work when you should be relaxing, and I know that you enjoy doing this, but the thought of Sam being like, "Hey, honey, you wanna, like, go for a swim? You wanna go snorkeling?" You'd be like, "Babe, I can't. I can't. I've gotta write down the myths for my podcast.
Can't you tell? I have to read this children's book for a very
God,
important reason. I've got a
just can't you
deadline.
leave me the fuck alone, alright? There's a lot of pressure. Fuck."
Oh, man. It is always so funny because I do take my book to do my chapter readings whenever we do, like, travel or
Mhm.
whenever I know I'm gonna have, like, some downtime and an appointment, and I feel like people are always looking at me like, "Is this guy just pull out a fucking highlighter? He's reading Percy Jackson?"
Yep.
It's just that, like, double take of, "Hey, yo, he's not for real right now, is he?"
Yeah. Yeah. It
God.
is really funny that, I moved into a new place and got my bookshelves set up, and I've got all these books, and a lot of them are nonfiction, and because of grad school, a lot of them are very dense, old books on theory and methods, and there are some, like, old classics and just things that I've collected over the years. But out of all of the books, including what are considered some of the greatest works of fiction of all time and things that I quite literally have a master's degree in now, the books that have the most highlighting and note-taking in them are these fuck ass kids books. Which really does tickle me.
Honestly, it's so fun. It's so fun to me, and I unsurprisingly, like, as we sit and reflect on another book gone by, I love that I just have a copy of the Iliad and the Odyssey on my desk at all times, and
Mhm,
that I just get to casually crack those open and be like, "Yep, I gotta take a few notes in this today." That feels so good. Like,
mhm.
I opened up the Iliad today to do a little bit of reading on some of the Thalias, and so I got to, like, highlight a line and be like, "Ah, and here's those 33 fuck ass Nereids."
Yeah, dude, it's great.